Hello there.
Hello,
Hello.
everybody.
How's it
Welcome
doing,
to
guys?
the Jedi Archives after show of Tales of the Empire. We're going to do the first three episodes, the first
Morgan
arc,
Elsbeth.
Morgan, the first arc, and then coming soon we'll do the second arc. So, but right now we're just going to get right into this and tell you what we think of the first couple minutes of the Tales of the Empire.
Well, it's more than a couple of minutes. It's 3 episodes. The three
Uh,
Well,
short.
he's talking about like the initial, like the scene on Dothamir, I believe, is what he's referring to. So
all
it's
of it.
kind of nice to get back into like the Clone Wars portion. Obviously, is where we're at, and seeing Grievous show up and
It was really cool to see Grievous. Did I don't remember why they destroy the Dathomir witches. Do you guys remember why? It was just loose
Yes.
ends.
Yeah, it's because remember, Grievous,
Palpatine and the Mother.
Palpatine told, uh, he was afraid that Dooku was training uh, Asajj to be the one to help them take over him for the rule of two, and so he ordered Dooku to kill Asajj. And so she was at the time fighting uh, Anakin and Obi-Wan,
Mm-hmm.
and Dooku called back all the troops and then started shooting at the ship. But then, of course, they all survived. And that's when Asajj went back to Dathomir and she was baptized. And that's when she officially became a Night Sister. And then she vowed to, to avenge herself to get kill
Dooku.
Dooku. And then Dooku had Grievous as his apprentice.
And
Mm-hmm.
So then
then
they ordered Grievous to take the clone army, I mean the separatist army, to Dathomir to wipe them all out
Yep, which
because
is
they're
exactly
a
what
threat.
they did.
is
Right.
that in what is that in? Have we seen that before?
Yeah, in the Clone Wars.
In the Clone Wars? It's not. It's not
Hmm.
in the book. It's in the Clone Wars.
It's in the Clone Wars. Hmm.
Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
was just trying to remember. It's so
I mean,
much.
it's probably in. I mean, Karen Travis did a lot of Clone Wars books.
Hmm.
It could be in there. I haven't read them all, so
Hmm.
I couldn't
Wait, I
speak to that.
forget.
But
Are
I'm
those
sure
are
some
those
are in.
canon or are
They're
those
EU.
canon?
They're
They're
EU.
EU, or I thought all
Hmm.
Clone War stuff was canon.
Not the books from
Not the books. Okay.
Karen Travis. Like I think the ones the Republic Commando books, and
Right, right.
there's
Because
I
I
think
know
four or five books.
all the shows are canon, right? All the Clone Wars
100%.
Yeah.
animations are canon.
Correct.
Yeah, just but not the
Correct.
books, the EU books. Okay,
Yeah, and I don't
because I
know if
was
there was
confused.
anything in the comics that depicted it. I don't think there was. So,
No,
Okay.
there's tons of Clone Wars comics. So
hmm
yeah, lots.
I would love to see
So
a
this,
big Clone Wars omnibus while we're at it. Just throwing that out
yes.
there.
So just like last year's Tales of the Jedi, this year we have Tales of the Empire, which is a nice anthology that goes over the duality of light and dark. And last year was focusing on the Jedi. So we got two characters in the spotlight, which were Ahsoka and Qui-Gon, which is really nice because it
Mm.
gives us three different points in
Dooku.
time.
Dooku.
Oh, sorry, Dooku. It was Dooku and
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, and three different points in time. And this year we get Tales of the Empire, focusing on two characters, which are Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss Offee. And in today's after show, we're just covering the first three episodes, which is the Morgan Elsbeth arc. And
Yes.
I'm glad that they focused it on, because last year it was jumping around because they put them in chronological order.
Yeah, because it started with
So
one episode of
right,
Ahsoka, then we went into the Dooku
right,
episodes, and then we went back
right.
to Ahsoka for the
So
last two.
right,
Yeah.
because it was chronological. I was trying to figure out, why are they in this order? Why are they jumping around?
I
It
mean,
was chronological order.
yeah, it was chronological, but even if you did the three Ahsoka episodes, it's still chronological as far as her story goes.
Right, right. But I mean, the
So,
episodes like 1, 2, and 3 were not one character. It was, you had to like jump around to see one arc, and then
right.
pick and choose to see the other. But this time we get the first three are just one character, Morgan Elsbeth, and those are the ones we're covering today. And I think that it's for these first three episodes, it's quite appropriate that the titles are derived from Grandmaster Yoda's quote from
Hmm.
The Phantom Menace. This is the 25th anniversary of it. So Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And those are quite aptly the titles of the first 3 episodes. So let's start with
Yeah, the suffering part is what the suffering part I think is intertwined throughout the whole arc, because the mother that's part of the mountain tribe says, "I see your future,"
mhm,
and basically it induces it's going to be suffering. So that's that.
right.
So that was like the overarching thing. But yeah, each episode was that lead up to the suffering part, and we obviously see it play out in Ahsoka. So
Right, right. But the first episode is titled The Path to Fear. Or yeah, The Path of Fear. And
yes.
in this episode, Morgan watches as General Grievous and his droid army wipe out all her people. They've come to Dathomir, all the Night Sisters being decimated. It's a genocide. And she's fighting back, and she sees her mother get killed in front of her eyes.
Mhm.
So it's pretty horrible, and you can see how this can lead her to want revenge and put her on that path because it's awful.
Yeah, it was a pretty intimate, like, opening to the show, right? Like, kind of make that the equivalent of the Night of a Thousand Years on Lando, right? Like watching the entire Civil War.
Right. It's hard to hear you, Bryce.
Really? Is it better
I don't
now?
know, just
It's a
yeah,
little muffled.
it just happened too.
Yeah,
Huh,
you were fine, and then it got muffled.
how about now?
Say something. So the first 3 shorts take place 20 BBY, and the focus is Morgan Elsbeth, the character that we've seen quite a bit of in live action in the Star Wars universe. And I remember seeing her for the first time in Ahsoka and thinking, how can she go toe to toe with Ahsoka? How is she so powerful? And so we didn't realize at the time that she was
Mhm.
a Night Sister, and so this gives a lot of background for that. So watching this really helps you understand the other shows better, which is something that I think Disney is notorious for. That you have to watch other shows to be able to enjoy a current show, which you shouldn't have to do that, but it is what it is.
I mean, to watch any of this, any Tales of the Empire, you have to know quite a bit of this stuff. There's no way you can hop in and know what's going on. But yeah,
Well, but the difference is that you can watch this and
Correct.
just enjoy this for what it is. You don't need to know anything else to understand what's happening
Oh,
in
it's
these
character
episodes.
development. Yeah, it's
Right,
absolutely character
right.
development
Yeah,
for.
these and both tales, last year's tales and this year's tales, give a lot of character development, which I love because it's more like we're readers, so when we read, we get a lot of character development. So I really appreciate that. It's not just the Star Wars, it's actual
Mhm.
character development. Um, so then, while the Night Sisters have never been on the side of the light, it's easy to see how witnessing this could lead a young witch to commit unspeakable crimes, which she does later, because she's just been
Mhm.
it's so traumatic for her. Um, so then she passes out of exhaustion. Oh, how about when that clone commando attacks her, and she just like forces that
Right.
knife
Oh,
to his chin? That was
yep.
so amazing. I'm like,
oh,
wow, yeah. And they were using their magic, right? Her mother used the magic. You see the letters forming on
it
the
was really
sickle.
interesting. She like powered them up, the sickles.
Mhm.
As she fought, if you were paying attention, it drained. The power levels were like going low and lower. And that's when he started winning. And then at the end, he was able to like, slice them in half
Yeah,
because
Right.
the energy was like drained. Well, that was really interesting that they had that little detail in there.
that was really
Yeah, and come to
cool.
find out that it wasn't. It was definitely a Night Sister weapon, but it wasn't like Mother Talzin's sword. At the same point, like a
Right.
very unique weapon, because we see later on that she picks up another set of them.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. And so then that leaves us. She passes out, and then she's discovered by another clan, the Mountain Clan, and they're dressed in white. So they also use the Night Sister magic, but uh, more the light side, and so
Mhm.
they're more pacifists. But Morgan's
Yes.
like she's not liking it. You know, they try to bring
I
her to
just,
her side, and
it's just so interesting because it just brings up more questions about the planet Dathomir. There's the
Oh yeah.
sisters, no men. There's Mountain Clan, no men, and then there's the Dathomir warriors who are only men, the Zabraks, whatever species they are. but totally
There's that,
different
but
species. And there's
Yeah, I think
like,
they were considered night brothers at some point. They graduated even into being like what's called a night brother.
hmm
but yeah,
but
there's that
remember,
guy.
but remember, they do use those males. They are
Hmm.
part of them, but they just have them on a different. I think of it like elephant herds. How they once the males get a certain age, they kick them out of the herd. It's all female tribes, right? And the elephant herds, except for the young, and then the males live in. They live in gorillas do too. They live in bachelor troops, and then
Hmm.
they have to find a female that they'll steal from a herd to create their own family. But then it's matriarchal system, so it's very much like that. So more so like elephants and gorillas, because gorillas do have the silverback who's in charge, but in elephants it's a matriarch who's in charge, and it's all female elephants. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like that, and they do have males, but the males are off on their own somewhere else because the males just cause
Well,
havoc.
at least they're the same species. What to me is confusing about that planet is there's multiple different species, and they're the men of the planet, though. So it's just very interesting. So, but it's fun. It's fun to think about. It's fun to understand how their cultures work on that planet.
Yes. Oh, and it was fun to see how her I thought they were tattoos, but they just disappeared.
They're like a
And then the
spell, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, they just like
Hmm.
kind of
It
disappeared.
was
And
like,
then
almost like she
the
went back in like remission, but the one in the middle of her
yeah,
forehead
on her forehead.
stayed. It was
I
Yeah.
yeah,
think
the
that was a
ones that are
scar. I
stayed.
think she fell down when she was a child and landed on something. Made a mark right
Okay.
But
Zero
yeah,
holocron for you.
but the new mother, I forget her name. What's the new mother's name? Um,
Mountain
Uh,
Mom.
I
'Cause
don't.
I know Morgan's mom was Selena, but the new mother
Mhm.
of the mountain tribe, I forget
Yeah, I
her
can't
name,
remember.
but she
I can't
tells her
remember the
that
name.
they faded because her clan has been destroyed. So
Mm.
there's no one left of her clan. She's the last one. And then it reminded me of Marin because she still has her tattoos, and she's off of the planet. Now, she did mention in the book Battle Scars how the farther away she is from her home planet, that her powers are weakening. I don't know if you guys read that one, but
Hmm.
so
I haven't read Battle Scars yet. No.
she talked about that connection to the planet was necessary. That the close, if she's on planet, she's the strongest. So the closer she is to her planet, she feels stronger because the magic comes back to her. But she still has her tattoos, so hers haven't disappeared. But maybe that's because she's not the last one of her clan. Maybe there are others. So just
Maybe she's
wondering.
older, more attuned to the magic. She was pretty young, Morgan. She was like a teenager. Maybe she hasn't passed her
Yeah,
right
I would
of
say.
adulthood.
Yeah.
Some
I
passing,
would
yeah.
definitely say Marin was definitely older than
Yes.
Morgan at this point. Yeah,
So maybe she's sustaining her own
Yeah.
marks.
it's
Maybe.
possible, or maybe her marks aren't necessarily Night Sister marks. Maybe that's just something that she acquired
Maybe
her
she
on her
fell on her
own.
face and there's scars too.
Or maybe they're tattoos like the
-5
Zabrak.
holocron.
So anyway, that was pretty cool. And then she's trying to, and I think they do mention that ad, they're adolescents, so they're not even teenagers yet. They're like 12, so 11,
Mhm.
12. And she does persuade them. She starts getting them to be afraid, even the others of the tribe, the young girls, by telling them, "Hey, what if they attack you? And there's something you could have done, but they kill your family, like I saw my mother get killed.
Right.
And what if you see your mother get killed, but you could have done something?" So then they're like persuaded by the fear to also train, and that's not good news for them. So
Mm-mm.
they
they get
get they
attacked,
get
and then
they
yeah,
die.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
the mother just teleports herself there and just like force blast everything out of the way, and
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
and
Just
like very bright
a big
white.
bubble.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what that reminded me off of. It reminded me of like Gandalf the White when he throws up his staff and it
Oh yeah.
emits this white light, and all
Mm-hmm.
the in Return of the King when he's out riding and trying to get the horses and everything back that
yeah.
were coming back from
Right.
the river. So that's what that kind of reminded me of. It's like
The
that white
Nazgul.
light power
Yeah.
that can
And the teleportation, Marin does it all the time, in Jedi. And
Mhm.
she does it all the time. So that's something that the Night
and you
Sisters
learn how
can
to do
do.
it too. as a
Yes,
Jedi. You get to learn how to
right.
do it.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Jedi can do that too.
Jedi
Teleport.
Survivor, you actually learn how to do some teleporting. It's pretty
Oh,
cool.
cool. That is cool.
It's only in certain cases, but yeah, like you can
Luke did
teleport.
it too, but it drained him.
Killed them.
Yeah. So then we go on to episode number 2 called The Path of Anger. So fear leads to anger. And this one takes place over the course of about 7 years between 9 BBY and 2 BBY. So you're moving closer up the timeline. And this one sees Morgan working for the Empire now. The Empire, the same Empire that caused the destruction of her life. But now she just wants to like advance. And she's pretty smart, right? She's the one that we now know designed
No,
the
the Empire
Titan.
didn't cause her thing. That was the Separatists, and then with the Republic became
Oh,
the
that's true.
Empire. So
That's true.
so she's working for the side that she wants to work for because they're
That's
the
right.
side that took vengeance on the Separatist army, even though it was all under one master plan.
You're right. You're right. So it appears as though she's with the good guys.
Correct.
But we learned for the first time that the TIE Interceptor, which I learned of first from Thrawn, the Thrawn books,
Mhm.
is actually her design. So I'm like, oh, she's the one who designed the TIE Interceptor. That's pretty cool. And then I recognized him right away. We got Captain Paleon. Uh,
Yes, because he's a captain at this point. Correct. Yep.
right, Captain Paleon, and I'm like, oh, that's Captain Paleon, and he was revealed
Mhm.
later that it was him. So I was pretty happy to see him. Um, because then that started connecting the dots for me because I've seen the Ahsoka show and Mandalorian, and I know that
What?
really
She's in the
connects to.
Ahsoka show?
Well, and then
Curious.
when they denied her they denied her and her designs that they were only interested in the resources, which is a very common thing with the empires. That's all they
Right,
wanted from these planets was to harvest whatever resources. So the fact
drill,
that they
baby,
said
drill.
that, yeah, the fact that they said that, like, there was like no surprise at all that that's all they wanted from her
For
presentation. It was like we had no
no,
interest in your
yeah, no
tie
surprise for us,
defender.
but I think she was pretty surprised.
Yeah,
She
but
was
it
pretty
was
surprised.
cool because then the ship that she's in the Ahsoka show, we actually get to see it, as she's
Yeah,
going back to Corvus.
that's right. It's the same ship. That's cool. That's right. And so she goes back to Corvus, right? And when she returns, you can see how she's trying to figure out a plan, like what's going to happen now. Because she wants to stop the Empire from coming and stripping her planet. Because she's seen how her tribe was destroyed on Dathomir, and she doesn't want the same thing to happen again to this planet. So even though she's not like the best of leaders, she still cares about this planet and doesn't want it to be stripped. Um, and then we see
Yeah,
Admiral
but
Thrawn show up, right? Well, before that,
yes,
Rook does.
Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, Admiral, not Grand Admiral, but Admiral. She's got
Correct.
the blue suit, and then Rook shows up, uh, fighting with her because
That's that. We got to rewind that just a little bit because Rook shows up first, and then Captain Pelion shows up, and then
right,
Ron shows up. But when I knew that was Rook, but the thing, I get it, it's Clone Wars animation versus Rebels animation. I just felt like Rook was off. He was too big. Like he's too
Hmm.
big, a little too muscular compared to the Rebels version that we're used to. Like I knew it was Rook, and that was the only little qualm I had was just the fact that
I
his
thought
Yeah.
size
this
was a
Rook.
little.
I thought this Rook was more true to the EU Rook in the comics.
Okay,
So the EU
I have
Rook,
not read that, so that
yeah,
I'm basing mine off of just what
right,
he looked like
right.
in Rebels,
Because
and it was
when I
completely
saw him
different.
in Rebels, I was like, he's way too tiny to be Rook because
Mm,
Rook was a powerful figure in the EU in the comics, and so they're like
okay,
major assassins. And so then when I saw this Rook, this is to me, it's an improvement of what I expected
okay,
originally, and I
fair.
and but the animation style of him fighting, I think, was much better. I mean, I think we can all agree the animation in this series is like
Oh, it's
it's
great.
fantastic, right? The
Yeah,
animation is
it's
so amazing,
wonderful.
and the music too, right? Kiner, great score.
And I'm gonna have to buy this one too.
And so then we do get Admiral Thrawn, and he shows up and reaches out to her, connecting to her on an intellectual level because he knows that she's very
Yes.
intelligent. But they needed to see that she could also handle herself, and she can. And so this starts explaining some of the stuff we realize because in the Ahsoka series, Ahsoka asks her, "Where's who? Where did you learn this from? Where is Thrawn?
Right. I like how this one. I like how it closed, and then the I want to say he's the former magistrate, I believe, who we
Wing?
see in
Wing.
who we see in Mandalorian season 2 when the whole Corvus episode
Right.
happens. We can see that he's like she won kind of thing. Like at the end with Thrawn standing there, there's 3 Star Destroyers. Obviously, the Chimera was the one right in the center.
Right.
Um,
I love the
kind
Chimera.
of like
I had a
what she
point
had
on
at her
that.
disposal.
Oh, John has a
When
point.
you see you see the Republic cruisers there, but they've been kind of almost repainted. Did you notice that the ones the 4 flanking it? What were the Republic cruisers called? I can't remember.
Like
But they're
the Ventnator class.
yeah, they're those. They're those, but they're painted more in the gray, and then the Star Destroyers in the back. At least that's what it looked like. I'm like, God, those are the Republic cruisers. Because this is kind
I'm
of
so
the time.
focused on the one in the center. I would have to go back.
Yeah, this is like the transition time where they're still transitioning to all empires. I'm like, those are at least they look like it to me, but there's no way to confirm it. But I'm like, those are the Ventinators. Those really cool.
Wait, but wasn't that? I think that's a 3rd episode though, not the 2nd.
No, when they
Wasn't
you don't
the
see the
2nd?
Star Destroyers in the 3rd episode.
Oh, right. You're right.
Oh, you're talking about the 2 that go over Coruscant were Ventnator class. Those were Ventnator class. That was the opening to this episode with the Morgan pitching the TIE Defender.
I just remember a formation, and you see the Ventinators coming first. And
I
then
think
you
that was
see
at the beginning. Yeah, I
And
think
that
that was
might-
at the beginning. Yeah. I think
Well,
that was
yeah, I
also
have to
the-
go back and look. It might be right, Jonathan. I didn't.
It's
I
also
just
at the
knew-
end of this when they come up like out of the forest. You see the Star Destroyer in the middle, and then I don't know if it's 2 or 4 flanking it, but they're the little ones flanking it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they didn't have the red stripe or kind of the tan; they were all the kind of flat gray. Like, oh, they made them more uniform. But when Thrawn's talking to her, this is where to me it gets a little fishy for me. My thinking what her motivation is this whole time was, and that with Ahsoka in mind, is loyalty. I feel like she's just loyal to him, no matter what, and that's kind of what I feel like she's doing. I mean, he goes across the universe, and she's focused only on bringing him back.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of this episode, her motivation is revenge. I'm like, who's revenge against who? I was really confused about that. So I don't. They're dead. There's no droids left from that army. I mean, Count Dooku's dead. Who does she want revenge against? So I thought that was a little. And why is she even there on that planet? If she's trying to make a living, that's fine. Make a living. She's on that planet trying to find a way to turn a profit. But then it's like all about revenge first. So I didn't get the revenge line at all. But the loyalty, I always thought
from that there's nobody that's her people, and she said that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it is. That her home planet, her way of life was completely taken away, and her revenge, her vengeance is just against everybody that's out there. Like we see it from the villagers, we see it, we see it how she even treats the mountain people, like gets them to go in and they're capable fighters, but they choose not to fight. Like what Mike said, they're pacifists, right? Like they're passive people, and she convinces them to pick up arms and go into this like battle kind of thing with no training at all. That's why we see that thing happen the way it is. But I think she's just angry at everybody, and it's kind of like how Thrawn is too. Like, yes, Thrawn's empire through and through, but he's also got that vengeance streak that anybody that opposes him, I will take you out. Like, he has no problem doing that, and that's, I think, why him and Morgan get along so well.
I'm guessing I was just hoping I would see at the end of these 3 arcs her build that loyalty, undying loyalty for him. Pretty much she sacrifices herself at the end almost for him. She's like, I'm going to go fight these couple of Jedis. I'm gonna let the ship leave, and I'm gonna go try and fight them. Almost like to me, is like she pretty much sacrificed herself, all
But it was
because
not
of
She
for him.
does
It was
say,
Thrawn.
not
"I
for
need
him
to."
though. It was not for him. It was for her, the three mothers, the
Correct.
sisters. It was for the
She
night
always,
sisters.
yep. She always says for Dathomir.
It was for Dathomir, not for Thrawn. And the ones that were
Mhm.
contacting her were the three mothers on Peridia, not Peridia, whatever planet they were on. So
That
the
was
ones that
pretty.
were
Yeah.
that was so they were the ones that were contacting her through their
Correct.
Night Sister magic.
Yes.
So
Correct.
Thrawn was
That's
partnering with them to reach out to
correct.
Morgan Elsbeth. So it
Absolutely.
Okay.
wasn't she's I
But
don't think she's feigning loyalty to Thrawn because he's the one that can get these things done, but her
Yeah.
oh
ultimate
yeah,
loyalty is to the Night Sisterhood.
correct.
Hmm.
Well, that does
And
make more
but
sense
she
to me.
does say, "I need to fulfill my destiny." So like at part of this, and that's what she says in the third episode, which we already know Thrawn is gone, right? And so at this
Yeah.
point, the Night Sisters on Peridia have contacted her, and
Right.
she's already in this planning route. What I absolutely love how this third episode ends. I love it. But we'll start with the beginning and that New Republic ship that comes flying in.
The third
Which,
episode?
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay. So
which,
but at the ending of the second, doesn't she I think it's important that she talks to Thrawn because Thrawn says, you know what? They agree on something. He says the Empire doesn't really care about the safety of the people, right? They're expendable. And Thrawn says that that's going to lead to a weakness because they don't have the loyalty. And Morgan Elsbeth shares that experience as well. So they both do value those individuals that are underneath them to help them accomplish goals.
To a degree, Thrawn is definitely okay with losses. He always says they were acceptable losses. So he's
Acceptable
always
losses.
calculated.
Right.
Yes, he's always calculated as okay, out of all these people, I'm okay with this many that just don't come back. Right. So I
Right.
mean he's still cold and calculating. He understands resources. He
Right.
understands how to manage them from a logistics
But
standpoint,
the
but
Empire's like, let them all die. You know, Empire doesn't care, and that's why the Empire didn't want the TIE Defender because the TIE Defender had shields to protect them, and the
Mhm.
regular TIEs had no shields, and so they didn't see a value of that. It's like, no, that's okay. They're expendable. We can let them die.
right.
So,
and the
so that,
Rebels clan ruined all of that.
and then just think if the Death Star had had TIE Defenders, the rebellion might not have won.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, so going
But
on.
then we wouldn't have a Death Star if the TIE Defenders were
That's true
built.
because they use that money. You're right. Touche. So
So
now,
the rebels are the reason why everyone on Alderaan's dead. Is that what you're saying? Because
yeah,
if they didn't stop the TIE defense from being made, the Death
Not
Star
everybody
wouldn't
on
have been made.
Alderaan.
So Alderaan is dead because of the rebels.
Well, I
Thanks,
mean the
Ezra.
planet's blown up, but there's still
They're floating
people
around
from
on
Alderaan
rocks.
around. No, come on, Cara Dune was from Alderaan.
I mean,
anybody who was off planet, anybody who was off
99.99%.
planet, yeah.
Wedge Antilles was from Alderaan.
Leia was from Alderaan.
Billions of people are
When
dead
she's not, she
because
was not an Alderaan by birth, though. She's a Skywalker.
Adopted children still count as well.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
from a technical standpoint, people that were, born into the culture on Alderaan, like Cara Dune and Wedge Antilles, are still around.
Well, Leia was from birth raised on Alderaan. She doesn't know any other culture.
and they're all dead now. That's
They're
what
all
I'm
dead.
saying. Just because the
Thanks,
clone
John.
kid. No, because the rebels. Because Ezra
Well,
had to butt in.
Wedge isn't dead.
I'm sure he's
Wedge,
now.
Wedge is not dead. He was in
Rise of Skywalker.
he sure
I'm
was.
sure he's after that. He was old.
Cara Dune's probably still somewhere as
No,
a
she's
marshal
dead.
of the
She's
New
confirmed
Republic.
dead. She's confirmed dead.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is. When
Where?
she was transporting, it was in one of the episodes that we saw that they were transporting the prisoner, that they came and attacked, and then they checked, and that all the ones who were transporting, and Cara Dune was the one in charge, were killed, but the prisoner was captured. She's confirmed dead. So, but going to the third episode now, that concludes this Morgan Elsbeth arc. It's the path of hate. So fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and then hate ultimately will lead to suffering. This takes place about 5 ABY to 9 ABY. So it's now after the battle at Yavin, and puts us into the Mandalorian timeline, the New Republic timeline.
So this is just with probably within years of when we actually see Ahsoka kick out the magistrate. I mean, it could be within days.
It's just prior.
Yeah,
but it's just prior for sure. Because I think the Mandalorian is it 10 ABY, or is it also Mandalorian between 5 and 9 ABY?
When is Return of the Jedi?
Like 5 ABY.
Then it's like 10 ABY because it's 5 years after.
Yeah, so it's 10. So this is in between that timeline. It's like maybe a year before that happens. Yeah. So Morgan's still reigning over Corvus during this time, and despite everything that the Imperials have done to her, she's still steadfast in her hatred for everyone and everything. So the dark side is just consuming her, and we get to see Wing, who is the one that allowed her to be in power, and he regrets it. And all the people they're working, but they're like working slaves almost. So they're very unhappy.
And you know what? You know what though? That one girl's allowed to leave, so they can leave whenever they want to.
What girl's allowed to leave?
The one girl who came back and became.
That's right. You know what? Yeah. You're right.
Hey, they don't like the job. Go someplace else, get a new job.
She didn't want to do manual labor. You're right, because she even tells her you wanted to leave and you left. So she's not like a tyrant. So.
Yeah, it's just once they're there, it is kind of brutal. I mean, they're under armed watch. You don't never want to work for an employer with guns pointing at you. But yeah, I mean, if you could leave.
Yeah. So that is cool to see the New Republic show up, and they're in the same uniforms that are familiar from some of the live action shows that we've seen. The blue suits. Cool.
Who else knew this was a bad idea? I mean, they had 6 guards, and they weren't even like at the ready. They were just walking with the weapons holstered, and you have all these guards everywhere. Much better.
Well, because Morgan has snipers up there. Yeah.
Yeah, with high ground, and they're just do. We'll be fine. I'm like, are you kidding me? I knew the minute it was a bad idea. It's just like, come on, guys. It's just silly. You don't run into a Wild West town with minimum security and try and take over and get the person to surrender. You have to bring SWAT teams, plan it, secret over at night, something. I just knew it was a bad idea.
She is not going to give it up willingly, and then it is a massacre of the New Republic visitors.
That felt bad. Yeah, they didn't stand a chance.
She sends a message, and who is it that she sent a message to at the end? None other than our friend Bo-Katan.
Was that who it was?
It was
Bo-Katan at the end. Yeah.
Nope.
She said, "This is Bo-Katan."
You sure?
Yeah, she says it.
You sure?
She sends a message, and she says, "This is Bo-Katan."
I didn't hear that.
Was Bo-Katan part of the New Republic? Was she a Fulcrum? That was Rosario Dawson, my friend.
You think that was Ahsoka?
I think that was Rosario Dawson.
No,
I think that's
it was Bo-Katan, and she was friends with Ahsoka. Remember? So Bo-Katan and Ahsoka were friends, so she probably told Ahsoka. But she said,
it makes sense to be Ahsoka. Ahsoka is the one that shows up, but I have no idea who it was. I couldn't make out the audio.
She says her name.
Sure?
She says her name. Yes, she says her name. This is Bo-Katan.
All right. Well, I'll have to rewatch it. Please comment on who it is. If your ideas or theories, see who's right on this one. I don't remember hearing Bo-Katan, but I only watched it once. I was already over it. I didn't care about her revenge. I want to hear about her loyalties, but
you went on to the following arc,
which
we'll review that next week.
Yeah.
You might be right, Mike. She is credited. Katie Sackhoff is credited for one episode.
Yeah, as Bo-Katan.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, and then she.
I could have swore that sounded like Rosario Dawson.
And then she.
Kidding.
We're trying to understand this next part. Didn't she just burns her whole
She burns
forest,
everything
all
down.
her
Yeah.
resources. I didn't get that part. Yeah, that was a little silly for me, but
Well, if she can't protect the resources, she's not going to let the Empire have them.
Right.
That
She's
was
that
pretty
type.
simple.
oh,
Plus,
the
plus
New Republic.
that's also a way to say this is what the New Republic did to our lands, right? Because she blew up the ship and then burned everything down. Like she can, she
Justify
can.
it.
Yep, she could justify it at that
She
point.
can spin it.
It's a bad spin.
Well, yeah.
Because she harvests
Look what
that
they
planet.
made me do. Look what they made me do.
Yeah,
I
she's the one
killed them all
that
for
pretty
the
much
fun.
burns that planet to the ground, though. She's the one
Yeah.
that burns the planet to the ground. She does not let the Empire have the resources, and she
And
puts
that's
all
what
the
happened
work.
to her. That's what happened to Dathomir too, which is interesting. She's doing the same thing that happened to her clan. They just got
Yeah.
burnt out. Yeah, it's awful.
It was interesting because I first saw the planet. I was like, oh, it's a nice forest planet. So I was like, what happens? And I actually
But
thought.
you know what? From the fire comes rebirth. Because
I thought they mined it to death. That's what I think was going to happen. And no, it's not. They just burn it. So,
yeah, they
all right. What do you guys think of this arc? These first three episodes.
Really liked it. I really liked it. I was very, very happy to see this little mini arc and a little bit more backstory on Morgan. Because let's be honest, right? Like, who did we know really who Morgan Elsbeth was in Mandalorian season 2? No.
Nope.
And did we learn a little bit more about her in the Ahsoka show? Absolutely, but we never knew like how her and Thrawn met, how she ended up on Corvus. We knew that she had talked about the death of her people on Dathomir. We knew that. So like, but seeing it has a totally different meaning than just hearing it. But I really, really enjoyed all three of these, and I know Diana was very excited to do more Morgan. So that's also a really cool thing to see.
I really enjoyed it a lot too, and I think that it was really nice to get this backstory and these connections, and also tying it into bringing in some more of the EU stuff. Like I love me some Captain Paleon. I love Rook. Anything from Heir to the Empire, that whole trilogy. I'm here for it, so I'm glad to have that back. I like all the character development because it's really driving the story. It just makes it more Star Warsy for me. That's what I like. So, John,
I enjoyed it for what it was. It's extraordinarily short. It's a little rough to get a lot of story of. It does show a lot more of the character, which is fun, and I really, really enjoy Clone Wars. I guess probably around time, the Rebels, and then down the road again, like Return of the Jedi. After Return of the Jedi, I really love that big span. It is hard to follow a lot of it because it's so quick and bow.
She was on Corvus for a long time because what we saw with Thrawn was pre him being Grand Admiral, and he shows up in Rebels as Grand Admiral. So there's definitely a chunk of time there. And then to jump ahead to basically that the third episode of Morgan is right at Mando season 2. Like that's
it's just on the cusp of it. Yes, it is.
So
because it was years 4 through 9, and then that's year 10 ABY. So it was right leading up to it.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And I kind of also like the fact that they left the Beskar staff a mystery. We still don't know how she acquired it, but she had it on Corvus.
And it had the same sounds too. The same sound as in when we first saw her with it.
Same markings too. If you paid attention,
yes.
it actually had the same markings.
Really cool. Really cool.
So
I like that a lot.
That was a really good touch, and it's got a really cool mystery of like maybe at some point we'll get that. Like that would be cool for a comic book for illustration purposes. Like maybe like kind of like how C-3PO got his red arm. Right, that's a one-shot comic. Maybe there's a story with Morgan with how she obtained that Beskar staff. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be a fun comic. I agree.
Maybe Kevin Scott will write it.
No, because he'll kill people.
Well, yeah, but she probably had to kill somebody to get it.
Oh, that's
He's
true.
the perfect guy to write it.
That's right. All
right. Kill a whole Mandalorian clan to get it.
With that much Beskar, she at least probably won for sure.
Yeah, so be sure you're following us on YouTube at Virtual Cantina Network, on Instagram at virtual.cantina network, on X formerly Twitter at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at virtual.cantina network, and on Hive at Virtual Cantina, and also on TikTok at Virtual Cantina while you can. And like the VCN Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025, I got my tickets. Facebook page.
Yes, I got mine as well.
Yay! It's gonna be fun. Can't wait.
We just hit 66,000 members. Probably
right.
67 by the time everybody gets to watch this. So,
And shout out to our sister pages, Star Wars Comic Book.
Club and Star Wars Book Nerds.
They moved the icon. You used to have in the corners.
I know. I'm like, wait a minute.
I just realized that too.
Because they put the Jedi archive in the other corner,
which is fine. That's where we always looked to find where it was.
No, like, wait, we're in the corners. Not anymore.
Yes.
Yep. Nope.
All right, guys.
All right.
Really appreciate watching. Please comment, and may the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.